There's a secret technique that professional worship guitarists are using to create standout guitar moments, and it all has to do with octaves for many different reasons. Well, today I'm going to show you how to use octaves to transform your playing this coming Sunday. So what I'm going to do now is I'll quickly play through a part that I've composed using octaves, and then afterwards I'll show you how to find the right notes, what techniques to use, and what rhythms you can use to create similar parts yourself. Let's check it out. Alright, so there you go. That's a fairly simple part, and if you want to go ahead and play octave shapes like that, the very first port of call will be to find the right notes. Now, navigating octave shapes across the board is quite simple once you know what the notes are within the chords. So first of all, triads is a thing that we speak about a lot on this channel, and triads basically just tells you what the notes of the chords are. And that's really essential for you to know, because normally when people play a chord and you play rhythm guitar, and if it says C, then they might think of C like this or C like that, or some kind of a C chord, and they just think about the chord and the name of the chord. It's going to result in a shape of the chord. But what's more important there is actually knowing, instead of just playing C, you've got three notes. You've got C, E, and G. All three of those notes together make up C. That's a triad. Now, it's very important to understand where to find these notes on the guitar, number one, and then number two, to know what the notes are within the chords. By the way, I taught a simple strategy that's just 6 simple shapes that shows you how to find any note anywhere on the guitar, and then how to play any major or any minor chord with just 3 shapes. So that video is linked in the description if you feel a little bit behind on your fretboard knowledge as it relates to knowing where to find the notes. So that's your first port of call. Then the next thing is you need to understand what the progression is, because the progression obviously is going to tell you the chords you're going to play over, and then as it relates to the actual chords you are playing over, you need to know what the notes are within the chords, and then you can go ahead and find those on the guitar. So if we look at this progression, which is basically a 1-4, 1-2-6-5 progression. So it's going to be C for 1, it's going to be 4 is F. I'll play that twice. C, F, C, F. Then it's 1-2, which is C for the 1 chord, 2 is D minor, 6 is A minor, and 5 is G. So the first part of the song, C, F, C, F. The second part of the thing that we just played will be C, D minor, A minor, G. Once you know those things, then it's important to go ahead and find what those triads are. So if I play a C chord, then I can play the C octave, I can play the E octave, or I can play the G octave. And C, E, G, C, E, G, those are the notes that make up C major. Now, a real quick side note, if you're not familiar with what an octave is, it's simply the same note, 8 letter names apart. So you'll see I've got C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So 1 to 8 is an octave. It's the same note, just 8 letter names apart. So if you're on a piano and you play a C and you go to the right, you're going to find a C an octave higher. Or if you play the C and you play the same note, 8 letter names, this to this side, it's going to be an octave lower. So now If I know that my progression is C to F, then I can play either C or E or G over the C chord. Then when I go to F, I can play C, F, or A. So those are my 3 notes in my F chord, which is F, A, C. And you can actually play the C down here. So when I played this part that I composed for this lesson, I actually played C for both the C chord as well as the F chord. Why did I do that? Well, because the C note, I get that in my C chord, and I also get it in my F chord. Now, the cool thing about octaves is you're not restrained by actually staying in one area the whole time. You can go ahead and use octaves to create some movement and energy in your playing, and it really helps you to kind of break free from some static chord shape. So you'll see that when I played this part, I was strumming it on C. Then to add some melodic interest, I slide up to the E, and then for F, I go back to the C, but then I slide to the F. So I'll just quickly play that for you with the track, this first part of the playing, and then you can go ahead and see what you can do there. Alright, so you can see there, if I were to play just normal chords, people typically strum the C, and then they'll go ahead and they'll strum the F. So when you play a full chord, you're kind of stuck with that chord unless you change the chord to something else. Whereas if you play an octave, you are free to use that same shape and just sliding it up and down the neck, mostly focusing on your chord tones like we've discussed, but then you also saw me kind of slide down from the F to the C. So you can use other notes from the scale as well, and then you can go ahead and create some kind of call and response moments on the guitar where you're using the chord tones and then you're adding some other notes in between there. Now, before we get to the second part where I'll show you what I played over the C, D minor, A, G section, very important that your technique and your execution for playing octaves is really dialed in. Now, we've got a detailed video that will show you how to use string muting on the guitar, but quite simply, when I strum my strings, I'm literally playing all 6 strings, but you are only hearing 2 strings. You're only hearing the A string and the G string. Everything else is muted because I'm using proper string muting with my left hand over here. So go ahead, check out the string muting video if you've not yet seen that. So that technique is going to be very important. And then the other technique that's quite important is when you strike a string, you can go ahead and slide up and down the fretboard using octaves, but you want to fret the notes in a very specific way. What you don't want to do is fret it down too hard, because if you really grip on that chord for dear life, then once you do a slide up or down, it's a lot of resistance that you're going to feel to kind of get that hand sliding up or down. So you want to find that Goldilocks zone where you are not fretting it too hard, but also not too soft, because that way you can go. And you can really go ahead and dig in with your strumming over there. And finally, your rhythmic patterns that you're going to use. If you've got a history as an acoustic guitar player, a lot of those acoustic rhythms tend to work pretty well. Like if I just play a simple, typical acoustic guitar rhythm, it'll sound something like this. Down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. That kind of pattern works really well when you play octaves and you've got a dotted 8 delay dialed in like I've got here. The second thing I want to bring to your attention is, in this progression that we've just played, it was C to F, C to F. We played that twice. Then for the next part, it's kind of like you're going into a bridge or a pre-chorus or a chorus, but wherever you're going, the song is building and the chords have changed. Now the chords are C, D minor, A minor, G. Now most guitarists, when they see that, they'll play C, they'll play D minor, they'll play A minor, and they'll play G. Nothing wrong with that, but you are confined to just sticking with those chord shapes. Let's go ahead and just quickly play what I played over that progression. Then you can see the difference that it makes when you venture out of those simple chord shapes. Let's check it out. Alright, so that second part is quite different from the first one in the fact that I'm playing more notes at the same time, but I also shifted from this area of the neck to this area. Now, how can it work that when the song started, when I played C to F, I played C over here, but then in the second part where we go C, D minor, A minor, G, I went over here? Well, I'm just playing E, which is the third of C. So now instead of me playing C, my octaves allows me to be more free and nimble on the neck here. So I can go ahead and play the E note over the C chord. Then when we went to D minor, I didn't use D as the obvious choice. Instead, I played the minor third, which is F. Now, if we look at a D minor triad, D, F, A. So I focused on the F. Now remember we said that call and response, so I wanted to add in a bit of a melodic feel there, because I know I've got D, F, and A, which is my D minor triad. So I played F, then I went up to A, but I used G as a passing tone. So, and that sounds really cool when you use a passing tone to get from one chord tone to another chord tone. And then also, I strike, slide, strike, slide. When you do that, it sounds pretty cool as well, because now you're adding in some articulation in terms of how you are phrasing that note. Let me just go ahead and play C to D minor one more time, and then I'll show you what we did over the A minor and the G. Alright, so we covered C. I just played the E note, which is the third of C, instead of playing the root note. So that already gives me an interesting sound. Then when we went to F, I played F, which is the minor third of D minor. So after C you had D minor. Played F. Then I went to the A, which is another chord tone of D minor, but I used G as a passing tone, and then I used that pick slide technique. Then we went to A minor, but I went back to the E again. So I'm actually repeating that same note over different chords. You remember that we did it in the beginning. I played C over C, and then when we went to F, I played C over F as well, because C is in both of those chords. C is the root of C major, and C is the fifth of F major. Now, when I played E over the C chord, it's the third, but I can also play E over the A minor chord because that's the fifth. So that works pretty cool. And then when I went to the G chord, I played D, which again is the fifth of D, and then I slide up to the G note. So what's interesting for me about this second guitar part over the C, D minor, A minor, G is I hardly play the root notes. When we're at C, I played the E note. When we're at D minor, I played the F note, slide to G and then A. Then when we went to A minor, I played the E note again. And went to G, I played the D note. And only here I slide up to the root note. So by not actually playing the root, you are bringing in some other flavors into your playing that sounds kind of cool and interesting, because most people kind of revert to playing the root notes or to playing typical chord shapes. So if you want to go ahead and find a way to kind of spice up your guitar playing, check out these octaves. They allow you to really explore the entire neck. You can use these kind of acoustic guitar rhythms because you're only playing two notes together. They really cut through the mix. So you need to make sure your string muting is in line. We've got a video for that in the description. And then finally, the way that you're going to go ahead and really understand what notes you can play is by learning your chord tones and knowing where to find these notes on the guitar. And in this video over here, we'll quickly show you how to find any note anywhere on the guitar. Go ahead and check that out if you've not yet seen it. Have fun with this technique and let me know how you get on with it.